Yeah, so I'm Verity Ford. I'm dual diagnosis practitioner. I'm based at Wolverhampton Drugs Services for recovery near you. I come under the kind of Compass umbrella, which is the Trust Dual Diagnosis team, and I'm currently part of a QI project at Mary Seacole House Ward 1 for naloxone. So we initially started the project early on this year, so kind of maybe January, February time, without the view of it being a QI project initially. However, in discussion it was thought that it would be a good QI project. With me and a colleague who are leading the project, thought it'd be a good idea to do some kind of QI training, because I've never previously been involved kind of in any QI stuff with the trust. And we completed the bronze, so we got our bronze certificate in the QI training, which was done over Teams, kind of over a period of weeks, and then we get support from kind of our QI lead, which is Shelley, and we have like regular meetings and kind of over email. She's helped me set up my life QI and do all my like diver diagrams and stuff, so it's been quite helpful having her. So probably COVID is the biggest one, and I think not just generally for setting it up, but in terms of how COVID has affected the project in terms of kind of staffing levels and being in kind of bubbles and lockdown. So it's found that a lot of more stuff's got to be over Teams and stuff, so I kind of think it's more affected us that way, in terms of maybe it's slowed the process down because things become less urgent because COVID took priority in terms of kind of how the trust managed that and where staff would be and if they're going to be redeployed, etc. So it kind of maybe made it feel a little bit kind of not as important as it normally would in like the general running. So we started this and it was like, we're going to get it up and running and it's going to go, and then it was kind of like people who were involved in the project, we've kind of been on a ward as well, got pulled in different directions and it kind of come to a halt. And then also as well, kind of we get a different cohort of staff. They've had a lot of staff turnover as well, which has affected kind of the QI project and how it's run and its development. I think kind of having a real understanding of what QI actually means and kind of its purpose, because I think you hear it a lot. You hear a lot about QI projects and kind of, and improvements in the trust, but I think until you do the training you get an understanding of kind of, it gives you a perspective from like the start to the end. Now I've done the training, a lot of the things that we were doing fitted into that training, but we didn't really have an understanding before of the kind of why we were doing it, whereas I think QI give us that understanding of this is why we do what we do, this is what our aims are, this is what the purpose of it is. And now it feels a lot more measurable and probably more enjoyable now, because it doesn't seem so as overwhelming as what it did when we first started. When you just hear the words QI, people are like, oh, I've not done, and that's how I felt. I kind of felt like, oh, it's going to be a lot of work, and actually, though it has been a lot of work, QI gives it a lot more structure and you're able to kind of process things a lot easier. It gives you one place where you can log everything and document all your changes and stuff, so it does make it a lot easier. It's been a good experience. I think that's down to as well kind of the support from Shelley as well. So any questions, whether they're big or small, we've been given direction. She's been really helpful in kind of saying this is where you need to go, this is you need to be more specific with things, or this is what you should be measuring. So it's been a kind of a real guidance. So it's for me, it's been a really positive experience, and I'm really glad that I did the training and I'm not part of it. So we kind of maybe started our journey like prematurely before we did the training, so we were kind of doing the QI project whilst doing the training. But I think what I'm most looking forward to is seeing that end result, so seeing all the kind of the hard work that we've put in and all the changes and stuff, and kind of being able to present that as a QI project and say, you know, these are the results, this is what we found, you know, and kind of being able to share that. I think not kind of specific to like what the training gave us. I think it made it easier because it was online, so it meant that we could, well, for me, you know, working from home, and it was a little bit more flexible in terms of we could just add it into our day rather than it sometimes face-to-face training. It's harder to prioritize that when you've got lots of other things going on. But I think one of the things that I did really kind of enjoy is using and understanding more about the kind of driver diagrams, because that kind of plots out your project essentially from kind of where you start, and then kind of each time you move and that progress, you're able to kind of show that. And I think that was really helpful, and I did enjoy that. And because I think we'd already started our project before we did the QI training, we had a lot of the information that we didn't necessarily know what to do with, or we didn't quite know where it fit. So actually doing the training, it made more sense to us then. The project made more sense. Our aims and what we actually wanted to achieve out of it was a lot more clearer using that kind of QI structure. I suppose for me, QI means about having the opportunity to allow for improvement. So it's not necessarily about, I think what I've learned about what QI is not necessarily that you do a project and you have to implement it. It's finding the best way to implement what you want. So, you know, and I think that's what I've learned on this journey as well, is that QI is a journey, and it's about how you achieve that aim and what's the best way of doing it, rather than being more of kind of an implementation measure.